Welcome back to Einsteinmediacetner, your one-stop shop for all unnecessary media dissection. Today we are joined by a very special guest. Thank you to Oliver from the band Forget Them Wendy for joining us today. Oliver, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, would you just give us a little bit of background about who you are, your experience and background in the music scene, as well as what brought you up to this point with working with this band, Forget Them Wendy?
Yeah, well, I play guitar and co-write the songs for Forget Them Wendy with Laura, who's um, the singer in the band. And there's just two of us at the moment. Congratulations, you're our first interview, or congratulations to us for having our first interview. So yeah, we're pretty new, and we've the way we met. I work as a producer, a music producer, and songwriter, and I was writing some songs or producing an artist called Lewis Fieldhouse, who released a single that I worked on a few years ago, and we were writing another song together, and he brought in his friend Laura to co-write with us, because we wanted to have a duet between him singing and a girl singing as well. And he thought Laura would be fantastic because they were friends from university. And we hit it off. Subsequently, Lewis and I are still great friends. He got hitched during COVID. I don't know how it happened. He got hitched to someone on your side of the Atlantic and ended up settling over there, and he's married to her, I think, some kind of whirlwind romance, which I haven't really caught up on. But in the intervening time, Laura and I became good friends and just started writing songs together. And fairly soon we sort of felt compelled to release some of them because, well, we really liked it. So here we are. We've released 3 songs as an EP, and we have pretty much a whole album sketched out. We have maybe 2 or 3 more songs finished, about 4 or 5 more in the working. So we're going to release maybe another EP soon, and then follow that up with another EP, which will, on the release of the final track, through some workings of Spotify and so on that I don't understand yet, will somehow congeal into a full album. That's the plan at the moment, insofar as it stands. We haven't done any gigs yet, or anything like that, so we're brand new, and we're just feeling our way, and really enjoying writing the songs. It's been an absolute pleasure to make this album, so I'm very excited for everyone to hear it. Yeah.
Wow, that's really exciting. So it sounds like you and Laura have been writing music a little bit for a while now. Were the 3 songs that you released on this EP, were they the first 3 songs you wrote together, or did you leave a few on the cutting room floor beforehand?
Yes, there were some songs that didn't make it. Some of the songs will appear on the album. So yeah, most of the songs we've written, we've been very, very happy with. So, but being that I work, writing songs for artists and for TV and film and so on, they some of our we signed on to things like that. So and decided, they weren't the same as Forget Them Wendy, but it gave us the idea that, hey, this is a great kind of thing. I grew up I came a bit late to the party, but I was really into, the kind of 90s wave of grunge. I think you'll probably hear that in our influences, but it's quite 90s, and there was a lot of grunge bands and indie bands that I really loved at that era, from UK bands like Garbage or Blur or things like that, to American bands like Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots and bands like that, which so this has been an absolute joy for me. It's a massive indulgence. It's returning to my roots. It's a real fun project. And Laura, for her part, she's obviously not here to speak for herself, but she told me that she had another friend who's been hassling her to be in a band for a very long time, but they just never got it together. And he listened to Forget Them Wendy, and he said to her he was so frustrated because he said it was exactly the kind of band that he wanted to start with Laura, and that they wanted to start together for this whole time. And now she's gone and done it with me. So yeah, it's that's where we're at the moment.
Nice. So it sounds like there was a lot of musical common ground between you and Laura to give this project some direction.
Yeah, it's funny when things, musical projects, some of them just click, and there's not really, it's not like we put a huge amount of thought into it. It was really just following an instinct and a fun direction, and something that just kind of naturally appealed to us. And I think once I got a whiff of a chance to do something like this, my inner teenager just ran with it and grabbed the bull by the horns, and all the other metaphors I can mix, I just kind of jumped straight into it. And so it's been a joy.
Nice. That's really great. And so your day job, you're a producer. So you've been working in the industry for quite some time now. How has
this is my
helped?
studio. We're in here at the moment, if you can see that.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you speak to a little bit how that has either influenced or kind of helped get this project to where it is? One thing that I really admired, and it does make sense now, is I've really thought the production value on the EP was great. I was like, it's very interesting for a band who doesn't have any other previous releases. They got this production thing down stat.
Well, we have had previous releases, just not as this band. Yeah, that's the trick. That's how we did it. That's how we made that work. Yeah, I've done a whole load of stuff from producing and writing, not necessarily with this kind of music. This is where I started out, and this is like a sort of homecoming for me. But it's I've written for hip hop and dance and electronic and neoclassical music even. I do a lot of different things and have done over the years. So it's slightly bizarre.
Are there any other genres that you've written for previously that have helped you hone your craft or to be able to think differently about writing music up until this point?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think everything you do has helps everything else you do. If you write songs, I think the thing that I really, really enjoy, I before I grew up listening to the bands that I've already mentioned, that my dad force fed me with the Beatles' White Album from a very young age, and that's an extremely eclectic album. It's probably still my favorite album, and it's full of, there's like from Helter Skelter, which is pretty much the genesis of heavy metal, to you know, Piggies, or, you know, the best song ever, Blackbird. You know, it's there's all those songs are so different, but they wrote terrific songs, and that I think that album probably hangs together the least well of all the Beatles albums, even though it's my favorite album of theirs. That's kind of what I like about it, and that's kind of my musical personality. And I think that's probably no accident, because of where, you know, how I was raised. It was dyed in the wool from a young age. I like to, I can't stay in one place genre wise. The main thing for me is songs. That being said, this genre feels very natural to me because of, you know, my sort of coming of age listening music experience. And I think I've had this album in me for a while now, and it's just been, you know, cloying at the membrane, trying to burst out. And you know, all things going well, hopefully it will now.
Yeah. So when you are revisiting the genre of music that is so familiar to you and so easy, let's say, for you to write, or it comes naturally, how do you continue to challenge yourself to either write more what you find to be more compelling songs, or write more, let's say, intricate pieces or parts to make sure you are you know, not just staying too close to the mold?
Yeah, you know what? There are um, so many ways. I'm sort of lucky enough that I've never sort of run into. Yeah, I'm going to jinx myself saying this, but I've not run into sort of a writer's block yet. There's always a way of making new ideas, I think. Is it Brian Eno who has these cards? They're like oblique references or something he calls them. I can't remember. Where you can kind of, you get a deck of cards and then you draw a card out if you're in trouble creatively. It doesn't have to be music. It could be, you know, writing a novel, or, you know, even just writing a piece of creative writing, or, you know, doing a painting or anything. But maybe you're not happy with the way things are going, or maybe it's great, but you just can't see it. Anyway, you pull a card from the deck and it just says something like, turn it upside down, you know, or and see what it like looks like there. And I don't have that deck of cards, but I'm aware of it. And I think quite often, like the last song I just wrote, Laura's coming next week and we're going to work on this hopefully for the album. But there's a song I just sketched out, and it's very often I'll just sketch out something I think will be inspiring to her, and then we can, you know, record it properly once she's had a go at it. But this particular one, I was listening to the Garbage album. I mentioned Garbage already, and that's probably why it's fresh in my mind. But there was one song on there, I think it's called Vow. I'll probably get the wrong song, but it's got like reversed guitars in it. And I was like, I'm going to put some reverse guitars off rhythm, and then I'm going to record them and build a song around it. So I started doing that, just as a starting point. This is as an example of how to get some ideas flowing. And then it just went off on a tangent. I started playing that. And then I was like, well, hang on. I just started finger picking the guitar, and I was like, that sounds better than the reverse guitars. I'm going to do this now. But I had a tempo that I'd set up for that, so I started recording that to that tempo, and then a chord progression kind of suggested itself, and then there was a sketch of a song, you know. So it ended up being nothing like the song that I was trying to maybe copy or something, you know. I wasn't trying to copy it, but, you know, that was something that I was inspired by. Ended up being nothing like it, but you just go off on a tangent. So that's one way, and you know, I think you can do it in many other ways as well.
That's really interesting. Do you do you have like an innate sense of trust in yourself, and like you can recognize like, hey, maybe it's not the reverse guitar, maybe it's this strumming pattern that I'm doing that works better. Like when you hear yourself meditating on an idea, can you just like feel it or recognize and say, this, idea B is better than idea A. I know I should run it in this direction. Or do you ever have to backtrack and maybe go off in a different tangent?
It's not perfect, sometimes, yeah, like there are no rules as far as I'm concerned. You have some, if you want to use the metaphor of writing a song like a birth or something, like some births are like us two guys would know what that feels like, but there are some births that are you might, hang on, I'm going to sway away from that metaphor because I'm not sure it works anyway, but you can work really hard at a song and it can be shit. You can work really hard at a song and it will end up being something you're really proud of and you'll really love it. You can just spend 5 minutes writing a song and it's the best fucking song ever, but you can also spend 5 minutes writing a song and it's shit. And so there really is no rules. I don't know if you write music as well. Maybe you've experienced this very thing.
Yeah, I play music, and I find myself to be a horrendous songwriter. I could play all right, but I feel like I don't have the knack to write.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm maybe the opposite. I'm sort of a mediocre player, but I can I just love making songs out of my mediocrity. But yeah, I think there are no rules. If there was a rule, you would if there is, I haven't discovered it, and if you did discover it, you'd be rich, of course. But like it's like, oh yeah, you should just only spend 5 minutes and just do this, this technique. But the thing is, if you set a technique, you'll get bored of it, and then it won't be exciting, and then you won't be. You need that kind of little spark, and that comes from the unexpected. So that's why the example I just gave with the starting this song, I was like, oh well, this could be a good angle to maybe start a song. And I went down there, but then the unexpected spark inevitably is more exciting, and I just kind of went in that direction. That's not necessarily the best strategy all the time, but in that particular case, that's what I did.
Nice. That's really cool. So then you said Laura's coming in to come write with you, come give feedback on your sketches. Can you speak a little bit about what her writing process is for Forget Them Wendy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, usually so I let her kind of take the lead because by the time I've written a sketch, there's I'm already quite familiar with it. I've had to learn the parts and try and make it seem like I'm better than just mediocre player. So I played it quite a few times probably by then, and I don't, I've lost the newness and the excitement a bit compared to someone new coming to it. But what I try and do is make it have, the sketch has got sort of dynamics of the song, so that I think when Laura comes in, she can be excited by it. She can go, oh, that bit, that chorus is going to be big, and that she can just hear the song easily because I've guesstimated what it's going to be like. And so she'll come in with and I'll just let her hum, make noises from her face and see what happens. And sometimes she dictaphones it, and then we can kind of, because sometimes we'll be listening loud, and I'm over here and she's sitting on the sofa of destiny over there, and so we're trying to I can't necessarily hear what she's doing, but we'll listen back to the voice note which you'll have recorded next to her, and you're like, oh, that bit sounds really good. Yeah, and like I say, with most of these, they've clicked really quite simply, and we've kind of written them quite fast. Yeah, occasionally I'll have like a lyrical idea. There's two songs I'm particularly excited about that we've got coming up. I think they're gonna. I don't know how we'll do it, but maybe there'll be either one will start the album and one will finish it or something, because they're like companion songs. They're almost like, if it was the old days, we'd maybe release them as a double A side or something. One of them's called Butterfly, and one of them's called Grounded. And they're kind of two sides of the same coin. They're about the same sort of thing. So she's taken her experience with life and put them into these songs, and they're looking at the same situation from different perspective. And it's quite funny because on Grounded I had an idea for a song called Grounded because I was just humming it, and that's what came out in my head. So I had it. I told her that, and she loved it. Then she changed it all and made it way better, And in the case of the other song, I had an idea about floating. I didn't think at the time that these were two sides of the same coin. But floating over. So actually, we wrote them in the other way around. So the floating over was first, and then the grounded was second. But somehow these two songs seem to want to be married to each other. But when I suggested the floating, she hated that idea. She kept saying it was like something floating in the toilet or something, and couldn't get over that. And I was like, "Oh, come on, it could be amazing." And it was one of the hardest ones we've written because I was kind of grinding in this direction. But eventually, she came up with the idea of calling it Butterfly, and that became the tag. So it still has that kind of sense of kind of flight and so on. But it's just another good example of how we write, because the ideas can come from anywhere. And in both of those cases, I had some preconceived ideas, but in one case it worked out, in the other it didn't. So yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. So it sounds like you are pretty much constantly writing music, constantly having ideas flow out of you. How do you know, when you come up with an idea, like, is this a song for somebody else? Is this a song for my own band? Like, do you go into these situations writing for a specific purpose, or is it after the fact you try to push it out to somebody?
In that regard, there's also no rules, and I don't really know. If someone came to me, I work with publishers and so on. They obviously, that's where I sell the songs to and things like that. And sometimes they ask me for things, and sometimes I suggest ideas to them for songs to write. So that can work in different ways like that as well. But yeah, it's kind of it's a bit of an open book, really. There can be things can happen from all sides, and if someone came, extremely famous person who's a pop star. Sorry, there's a moth flying by me. I have to moths and mosquitoes. I have zero tolerance for in my life. Have you heard? Do you like Jeffrey Lewis? Have you heard of him?
I'm not sure I have.
Check out Jeffrey Lewis. He's awesome. He's got some amazing. He's one of the best lyricists ever. But he's got a song called "Mosquito Mass Murderer" or something, which is very funny. I think he sets it to like a "We Will Rock You" beat kind of thing. Anyway, he's great. You should check him out. And I've totally lost my thread now because of that moth. Yeah, I was. Oh yeah, I was saying if someone, I don't know, Katy Perry, I don't even know, said we need a song about a butterfly. Here's £1 zillion. You know, then I'd have to, take back everything I said, and that song would have to be for Katy Perry. But that's not likely to happen. And any, you know, um, uh, any song can end up anywhere. I just had a song before this, just before Christmas got released, a song I wrote with a charity that or I worked on and co-wrote with this uh, charity called Daylight Studios, which is another project I have, which uh, releases music for people with learning difficulties, head injuries, strokes, and things like that. One of our tracks just got sampled by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story that I can't even believe is a real thing. But it's we had no idea that was going to happen, and that's kind of the world of songwriting. Really, it's just a lot of making stuff and not much happening, and then the occasional lightning strike of something very exciting can happen.
That's very interesting. Do you happen to know what a song of theirs sampled yours?
Yeah, it ended up being the lead single off their album just before Christmas. So
Wow.
our song is called Watermelon Fantasy, and it's the most crazy piece of music that I've ever been involved with, and maybe that's why it's done well. But it's very original. It's very crazy. You can check it out. It's called Watermelon Fantasy by Daylight Studios, and we released it as a Christmas single quite a few years ago now, and it um, didn't really make a splash. We didn't get to Christmas #1 or anything, but one of the I don't know if you've heard of the Guardian newspaper over here, but that's maybe similar to New York Times or something in the
Yeah.
States. They
Yeah.
took pity on us and gave us some column inches in the following January, and I said in the interview, I hope Kanye samples it and it becomes a global phenomenon. And of course, the Guardian put that as the headline. So I can only think that maybe in some depressed basement somewhere, Kanye's Googling himself and finds this, and then somehow that makes its way to Snoop and Dre's people. And I have absolutely no idea, but it's quite a crazy turn of events. And their song is called Out of the Blue, which is also quite fitting because it kind of came out of the blue.
Wow, that's really exciting. That's very fun, and like you said, that's kind of the beauty of music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing. If you're ever, you know, demoralizing, it can be quite demoralizing when you're, banging your head against the brick wall trying to get noticed, with music. And I'm not saying I've got any of the answers to that because it's really hard to, Forget Them Wendy's quite a small band. It's great. I'm really excited that people like you have found us. We're not extremely well known, and it's amazing feeling when someone discovers it, but it's really hard to get heard over the thousands of songs that are being released every day. So when something wild happens, it's magic.
Yeah, absolutely. So regarding Forget Them Wendy, I know you said you haven't played any shows yet, and it's just you and Laura right now. Are there any plans to get, whether it's a full band together or people to at least stand in so you can play shows?
Oh yeah, no, we've got you know, I even have ideas of who we'd go to. We'd very easily be able to put our band together for live shows when the time comes. It's just about sort of yeah, the demand. We've been asked to play quite a lot of shows already, but at the moment we're, I think, yeah, if something compelling came along, if I don't know, Glastonbury Festival wanted us to, I don't know, something, we'd very easily put it together. We're not strangers to live music and playing live. We could do this quite easily, but at the moment we're just concentrating on making great songs and trying to get them out there so that we can create enough demand for people to want us to play a show and to make it worthwhile for us, basically. That's
Nice.
the hope.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So since the release of the EP, I know like you said, the band is small, the band is relatively new. How has the reception been? Have you felt like the band was getting more or less traction than expected?
I think, well, I'm quite excited by it, and that's, adding to the excitement of making the album. I think we've had quite a good reception. Insofar we haven't sought out any press, but you can sort of tell when there's people such as yourself who want to find out more and want to interview us, and people want us to play shows, and also there's obviously the BBC in the UK, which run this thing called Introducing. They're quite supportive of up and coming bands, and they've been quite kind to us so far on their shows. Said some really nice things about us and played us more than a few times now, I think, and so that's quite encouraging. Hopefully we can build on that. Thing is, yeah, you never know. We could release the next stuff and no one notices. That's the trouble. But just get lost in the algorithms. But hopefully not. Hopefully we'll be able to capitalize on the kind of early momentum and kind of build it like we want to, and then in a year's time we'll be doing shows and, I don't know, supporting some of the bands I mentioned, maybe.
Yeah, very exciting.
And can but dream.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, you can but dream.
Yeah. So regarding releasing new music, obviously you have some stuff in the works. Do you have any goals to get things out by a certain time this year? Are you aiming to get music out through the remainder of the year?
Yeah, I think there'll be so it'll probably be by the time we get our act together, because we've got two, I think it might be another 3 songs next. I'm just waiting on one more, which I think might be the lead track for this one, if it turns out good when it's finally mixed and all that kind of thing. It's called Firework, which is here in the UK we have Bonfire Night, which is something to do with the Houses of Parliament and this guy called Guy Fawkes who tried to blow it up, and so we wrote that around about Bonfire Night last year, and hence the name of the song. But that festival in the UK is kind of being subsumed, but everything's turning Americanized, and everyone does Halloween now instead of, because they're quite close together, and so Fireworks Night has become much less in the UK, which is a shame. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe that song will become, do well and be a revival for Bonfire Night or something. But anyway, we need to finish that, and if it turns out well, hopefully that can be done this month, and then the other 2 songs are ready. We can schedule that for release and get the artwork done and so on, and then we can maybe that means by then it'll be September, October or something. What am I thinking? I should probably release it on Bonfire Night, shouldn't I?
I guess that makes sense.
So that's November. So 5th of November. There we go. That's our next release. You heard it here
All right.
first, because that was only decided right now. So that's I think that's the plan now. Thank you.
Nice.
You've really helped in that regard.
Yeah, happy to be of service.
Yeah. And
Nice.
then I think, the rest of the album is underway, and I think we should be finished that by the end of the year. And so I think in early next year we'll release the final tracks, probably the Butterfly and Grounded and so on, and that will be that'll complete the album. So maybe March or something, April next year.
Nice. Very cool. So one thing you just brought up that I have a lot of interest in was the artwork for your music. That was one of the first things that I noticed when I saw it pop up. It was very eye-catching. I listen to a lot of metal, so I expected Spotify to be recommending me a metal band. So can you speak a little bit about, who creates the art and what it means to those songs and the direction that you're taking the visuals?
Well, yeah, let me backtrack and even tell you a bit about how, I think I kind of skipped past this bit about how the band formed, but or me and Laura sort of became a band. We had this project. Our working title for the band was called Handmade, mainly because we were just making it ourselves, so it's like handmade, but also it was like a pun on the Handmaid's Tale kind of thing. The book by, oh dear, I'll just pretend I shouldn't have tried to remember who the author, Hilary Mantel, I think. Don't quote me on that, might be wrong. Anyway, so trying to sound clever and erudite and well read there, and I've hoisted by my own petard. But anyway, so we kind of started this. This was our working title, and then we were getting ready to think about releasing this, and I just saw on my friend's Facebook page, she posted a bit of artwork that she'd done, and I loved it, and I was like, can we use that please for this band Handmade that we're doing, and she was like, yeah, okay. I was like, brilliant. And so she went and took high quality photos of it and scanned it, and because it was done on, I think it was made on a piece of wood or a canvas or something, and the paint's quite textural, so it was quite hard to scan and all this kind of thing. And I couldn't get the same magic from it. I was like really frustrated by this, so and ended up just using, I think she just took a picture of it on her iPhone, and that was the best picture. It just looked great on the iPhone camera in that certain light on that day when she took that picture and posted it on her Facebook. So we just ended up using that over the high quality scans and everything, because the artwork just really spoke to us. It kind of encapsulated that kind of vibe that Laura and I had in the music, which is slightly kind of it's like what you feel like sometimes your head is inside, even though you may be presenting something more sane to the world. And I think that comes across a little bit in the lyrics of the music. It's kind of sort of the inner turmoil, despair, and your inner voice maybe, and that's maybe your inner, that's the face of your inner voice maybe. So that's why we chose that. And then then we just decided to release this, and this was now our artwork. Laura, I can't remember how she did it, but we were talking about something else, and she just threw in this name, Forget Them Wendy, that she had for an idea for one of her side projects or something. I was like, hang on, Handmade, scratch that. What was that? And she was like, Forget Them Wendy. And I was like, where's that from? And it's from the beginning of Peter Pan. So the forget them, Wendy, forget them all, come with me and you'll never have to live like an adult or something. It's about kind of staying young and so on, and not kind of avoiding reality in a way in the kind of parable of Peter Pan. And that was that also kind of fit with that sort of inner, the artwork and the kind of whole thing that we were projecting there, which is that kind of sort of chaotic inner avoidance stuff that you have.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing a good job of describing that, but that's how the name and the artwork and
You did a great job describing that. That's really cool. And I really like the detail of how you use that iPhone picture rather than the high quality scans. It really harkens back to that handmade yeah, exactly. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny how things like that happen, and of course things like that happen in the music making all the time. Only today I'm just getting a friend who's a drummer to record the drums for Butterfly actually, and I recorded the bass guitar on that song first, and then wrote the drum pattern to the bass line or to the rest of the song, and so I programmed the drums and then I'll play it to him to play it properly and make it better and real. But when I wrote the drum part, I was kind of like, the bass isn't really following exactly what the drums are doing. The accents are a bit different, and I'm going to replay the bass. So I started doing that today and wasted about an hour doing it. And then I was like, damn it, it kind of works better being a mess, the kind of the spontaneity, the kind of slight not perfectness fitting together somehow fitted more perfect than if I did it properly. So things like that happen all the time, and I'm all about that. I very much like the kind of the wabi sabi, as they say in Japan, the perfection of imperfection, and it's really knowing how much to make something perfect and knowing when to let it be imperfect. And I'm not saying I get it right, but all the time. But it's definitely the sweet spot that I try and aim for most of the time.
I really admire that. One thing that I've mostly grown up in the digital era of music. I'm not even 30, so I spent most of my life with CDs and into the streaming era. And so much of modern music today is so sanitized oftentimes. So I like the approach of allowing some things to be just like a little bit messy. It makes it feel so much more alive and artistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hope so. And in an age where there's going to be lots of AI music coming up as well, I think that might be, where the realm that humans exist in, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, just two more questions, I think. But to start, are there any modern day bands or musicians that you have been exciting you or inspiring you to push yourself as a creative?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of, I made a wee playlist on our Spotify page actually of artists that I've been enjoying recently, because obviously loving the kind of 90s sound and how that's kind of, I mean, I don't think there's any huge fashions in music at the moment. It seems to be there's just a lot of stuff going on all the time everywhere, but there's always a niche for what you're doing, and there are bands sort of bringing back that kind of 90s ethos in a really exciting way. You know, I really liked what Wet Leg did a couple of years ago, and you know, here in the UK, we got them. We've also got like bands like Wolf Alice, and in the US you have, you know, Soccer Mummy and some other people who are carrying that kind of ethos again into the music they're making, and so we found that quite inspiring, and it kind of gave us maybe again another thing to add to the pie of confidence to kind of push this project and actually do it, because it's something we really wanted to do. So seeing that there were a few people out there doing it and kind of making it work was quite inspiring to us.
Yeah, that's really great. That's very cool. So, last question I always like to ask, especially when I'm speaking with somebody not in my own country, is about your local cuisine. If I were to come to your neck of the woods, what is either one dish or one place or something that I would have to eat while I'm over there?
Wow. Well, you know what? People say about the UK that the food is terrible, but they're wrong. The UK food is some of the best in the world at the moment. I think I'm going to throw down that challenge to you Americans. There we go. We have. I don't think. I think you can smash us to pieces on like Mexican food, but I'm from Edinburgh, and there's an incredible scene of food going on in Edinburgh. If you ever get a chance to visit there, there's a lot of great restaurants, a lot of foodie restaurants. I'm not a massive foodie. I quite like shonky. Maybe it's the wabi sabi again. I don't know. I quite like the you know, authentic shonky kind of Indian restaurant or Turkish restaurant or something like that. But there's plenty of them, and there's also plenty of foodie ones. So Laura, incidentally, she's based in Newcastle. I'm in London at the moment, and around about me there's incredible Japanese, Turkish. I mean, it's okay. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll say the best falafel you can find is probably 2 streets away from me over there, and it's a place called Pockets.
Okay.
So I think it's an Israeli guy who basically reverse engineered the best falafel you could ever have, and then he has this kind of window where he under a railway arch where him and a team just make this one thing. They don't make anything else, just this falafel in a pitta with a bunch of other stuff, and that's all they make, and it's probably one of the best in the world. So that is what I'll offer you. That was a very long-winded answer, and I could have just said go to the falafel place.
No, that was a great answer, and I will agree with you. I've only been to London once, but I had fantastic food when I was there. I had great Indian food. I had a good full English breakfast, so I'm on your side. England does have great food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. So we can expect more songs this year, hopefully around November 5th.
You heard it here first. It's been decided.
Alrighty, love it. And then hopefully an album early next year. Anything else you want to plug for the audience while I have you?